everyone. Welcome to Ask Amy. Ask Amy is a new feature that we're just starting out trying where you can ask me questions. I get a lot of questions. I get so many emails every week, and a lot of them are repeated. And I just know from talking with so many people through the Little School of Big Change and just through my coaching practice that a lot of the same questions kind of come up over and over. So I thought it'd be really, really great to be able to have you send me questions, and I'll address a question here each Monday for the benefit of everyone. Because I know if one person has it, probably 100 people have it, and probably way more than that that don't even know that they have that question, but could benefit from a response as well. So the way it'll work, just to give you a quick overview, is you send me a question at AskAmy@thelittleschoolofbigchange.com. So a special email address just for these questions, and I'll put it here, AskAmy@thelittleschoolofbigchange.com. Send me a question about anything that's on your mind, habits, finding freedom from habits, how we do that. Today we'll talk about how we do that without willpower, without hard work, things about the principles, the 3 principles, which is what I study and share. Questions people have often about coaching and helping other people, anything that strikes you, that kind of comes up as a question for you, send it to that email address. And then I'm going to read all of your questions. I read all of them last week, and I got a lot of them, some really, really great ones. I will read them all, and I'll choose one to address here live each Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern. And I'm just choosing them based on what I see often and what I think is a really representative kind of question that's probably going to help a lot of people. So that's how Ask Amy works, and I want to try to keep this nice and sort of tight. So let's get into today's question. So without further ado, the first question comes from Wendy, and she's asking about her binge eating habit. And let me just say something up front here. So when you have questions about habits, if you're not familiar with my work, what we're really looking at is the source of our experience. What is true about every single human being who ever walked the face of the earth? What's there kind of in us by default? What is our sort of human operating system? And then how our thinking works, how our experience works. And what we speak to, what helps with this is not just true for Wendy or for me or for you. It is universal. So when we're looking at habits, a habit is a specific thing that we get caught up in doing or sometimes thinking or feeling. By the time we look at the specific thing, whether it's binge eating, shopping, working too much, anxiety, worry as a habit, by the time you get to that place, well, that's just how it's showing up. But what's really interesting and important and helpful, extremely helpful, is to look deeper than that. And to look at what's true and what's happening before you get to this specific thing that you happen to do, that we call the habit. So I just want to say that up front because Wendy's question that I'm going to address here is about binge eating, and people will have specific questions about their own habits. But you can really kind of take this in as if all habits are the same. So an answer to a binge eating question has nothing to do with eating differently. It has nothing to do with binge eating. It's deeper than that. And so in that way, it's helpful for everyone. So let me read Wendy's question. So Wendy says, after reading your book, I kind of understand the power of thought. But when I'm about to binge and I stop myself because I recognize my thoughts, so she's about to binge and she stops herself. A thought usually comes in that says, you're trying to use willpower. Just eat what you want and stop trying to impress people. So this is Wendy's experience, right? She's feeling like she wants to go into her habit. In her case, it's binge eating. And then she hears this thought come up habitually, very often, right? That says, oh, you're trying to use willpower. Don't do that. Don't try to impress people. She says, I know this is a tricky way to get me to not let go of my habit. What's a thought? This is a thought that comes up. But at this point, I don't really see any other way than white knuckling it. So she's kind of feeling like, I need to white knuckle it, to get through this thought. I know your approach, she says, I know your approach is about stopping and talking to yourself before binging, using logic, and eventually my habit will go away or at least get smaller. It seems like willpower is needed to stop before doing something. What am I not seeing? it's an excellent question. So I can see where you're kind of caught up, Wendy, and what you're not quite seeing, because the approach isn't really what you said. So you said the approach is about stopping, talking to yourself, using logic, and having that pause kind of in there, before you fall into your habit, whatever your habit might happen to be. And I wouldn't say that that's what the approach is at all. Now, I know that's what a lot of approaches are, but that's not what this one is. And it's completely understandable, Wendy, that when the approach looks like that, you are absolutely right. When it looks like, if someone tells you, anyone tells you, hey, here's how you end a habit, just when you want to do your habit, you stop, you use logic, you think about it, you let those thoughts pass, you do all these things, and then you won't have a habit anymore. There's a lot of logic to that. Like, that makes good sense. And if we could all do that, we would all be habit free. If we could all do that consistently all the time, like if it worked that way, I don't think many people would have habits. So it isn't, nothing in this, and let me say this, and you're absolutely right that if that's the approach, you're going to need some willpower. At least much or part of the time. You're going to need some willpower, because what else do you have? So imagine anyone out there who has a habit or who's just been caught up in a lot of really uncomfortable stuff. You're feeling all this stuff. You're lost in it. That's how human life is. We feel our thinking, and it is brought to life in a real physical, emotional, completely interactive 3D experience of life. So we are in it. Now, to then say, okay, well, when you're in that, you need to have the wherewithal to stop and apply logic to talk yourself out of it. I can't see how that's ever going to help anyone without willpower. So it can help in a moment. It might help one day or a few days next week or something if you try that. But Wendy, you're absolutely right. In order to stop yourself in your tracks, all this momentum is going, you're feeling bad, your mind's saying, do this, you'll feel better, you're totally caught up in that. To stop and apply logic and think your way out of it, absolutely, that is going to require a ton of willpower, a ton of discipline, a ton of just wherewithal, a ton of insight and ability to see things that you may not be naturally seeing in that moment. And so, of course, we wouldn't expect for that to really help very often. The irony in the willpower approach is that just when you're supposed to pull out the willpower and use it is the time when you have the least of it. You're caught up. You're not in your right mind. You're not seeing clearly. It's okay. It's just thought and feeling coming through you. But it's a time when you aren't feeling well. Now, to say, okay, that's exactly when you're supposed to now pull up all these resources and use willpower, it just doesn't make sense. It's just not really going to work well that way. So let me just kind of clarify what the approach is, and it's not really an approach, but let me kind of point you in a different direction here. So what helps people find freedom from habits is many things, but it's really about kind of seeing what's true, like I said, seeing what's true of you already, seeing that there's a you that has all this resilience and wisdom, and that doesn't change. Totally resilient, can take anything. It's like the sky. And then there's a psychology that we all have. There's thought. There's this spiritual energy, universal energy that comes through us, takes shape as thought in a moment, and we feel it. So we get to be human. We get to have this experience, this evolving experience of thought brought to life. It's not us. That experience isn't us. The experience is impermanent. It's temporary. So the thoughts and the desires and the feelings and the urges, whatever you want to call them, that you have to go into your habit to binge eat, well, that's in that moment. You're feeling all this stuff, and that looks like a thing. That behavior is kind of calling to you as a potential solution. It looks like a thing that's going to help you feel better for a minute. But what ultimately helps here is seeing that all of that stuff you're feeling, all the stuff we're ever feeling, is continually moving through us, and it's not us. So it's having this sense of there being a solid place. We all have to kind of see this for ourselves, but to me, it feels like there's a truth of who we are. There's a piece there. It's full of resilience. It knows what to do. And then separately, there's this constantly evolving thought created experience that we're all in all the time. But kind of having a feel for the difference of those two things helps us. It helps us in the moment. Now, it doesn't give you a strategy. It doesn't give you a thing to do, but it doesn't mean that you are fighting your experience with willpower. And that's really what willpower is. Willpower is coming in, you're having thoughts, your thought, feeling, emotion, urges, whatever is moving through you. And when we come in with willpower, we come in and we add more to that. We add more thought to that that says, no, I'm not going to do that. No, this is a bad idea. It's coming from the same place. Now, it's not horrible. There's a time and place for willpower. It's helped many people in many little moments. But it's not what helps people ultimately find freedom and really kind of, more so than even finding freedom, ease into the freedom that's already there. That's what's on offer here. That's what's possible for us. So willpower is like coming in with more thought-created experience to sort of try to trump or beat the thought-created experience that's already happening that we don't like so much. And as you can see, it gets to be kind of messy that way. It's not. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of willpower and a lot of effort to bring up your willpower. And again, it's at a time when we have the least resources for it and the least clarity to really be able to see. So it's much easier than that. It's coming to see that our experience is okay. We are part of nature. Human beings are part of nature, and we don't go out and try to fix nature, and we don't have to go out and try to fix ourselves. We can come to see deeply personally. Don't expect my words in a short Facebook Live thing to do it for you, but let this be a pointer in the direction where you can see more for yourself about what feels right to you and what you see about this. But it's looking in a direction of us being part of nature, of our thoughts, our moods, our irritation, our irritability, our habits being part of what kind of just moves through as nature, what moves through nature. And it moves through. It's okay. It's all natural. It's all evolving. It's all unfolding. And we don't need to get in and try to change it and move it and manage it. And when we do, and we all do at times, that's okay. When we do, we tend to create more issues. We create resistance. We don't like it. Now we're fighting it. We're bringing in this and that and all of these outside things when nothing else is needed. So I always start people off by saying that you are habit-free by nature right this very minute. And you're feeling whatever thinking is showing up in your experience right this very minute. And those two things are not opposed to each other. They're both. You're free. You're resilient. We all are. We are at peace. And we're feeling a moment-to-moment evolving, carrying on show from within us in our own minds of spiritual energy taking different forms and putting on a show for us. And it all happens perfectly. And the more we kind of get in that feeling of not adding more, not doing more, not fighting more, but adding and doing and fighting less, because we see the truth of it. It's easy to do less when you deeply see the truth of it. Things get much, much easier. And change starts to happen much more quickly than you can ever imagine, and in a peaceful way, in a way that doesn't add another full-time job to your plate. So again, I hope this is helpful for you, Wendy, and for everyone listening, because many people, that's why I picked this question this time. Many people have this question. Well, it feels like I'm white knuckling. It still feels like it's taking willpower, and that's okay. It's okay to be there. But what that is showing us is there's just more to see. It's like saying it feels like it takes willpower and like I have to white knuckle to make night come tonight, to make that sun go down because I need it dark so I can sleep. So I need to willpower and white knuckle to make the sun go down. Well, that's just a misunderstanding about how how the earth spins and the sun, how all of that works. It's just not quite seeing it clearly. It's thinking we need to do something. And this might sound extreme to compare it, but really see, like, what if it's that way in us too? What if everything works and goes through us just fine? And we're just caught up in the psychology part of us, just trying to change it and fix it and speed it up and all of that. So again, Wendy and everyone, this just points us in a direction. This is not like the answer in 10 minutes, but it's a place to look, and I know from my own experience and from seeing hundreds of people in this, the more we tend to look in this direction, the more we just tend to feel a little safer and see more, and it'll show up. You'll have your own insights that'll help you kind of relax around it, and then there's no need for willpower and white knuckling anymore. It just looks different. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your questions, all of you. Wendy, excellent question. I'm so glad you sent it, and I really hope this is helpful. And I encourage everyone to look in the direction of the 3 principles and some of the videos, all free stuff on my website. Lots of stuff out there that kind of keeps pointing to this truth. So keep sending your questions. If you sent them last week, I might still answer them. There's a lot of amazing questions in there. But again, if you have a question that you'd love to have answered here, send it to AskAmy at thelittleschoolofbigchange.com. And I'll be back here next Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern answering them. So thanks so much. Have a great day.